jumped through her knee. Like, she's done for the year. There's like I'd say there's a near 0% chance that Sophie Cunningham plays this year. And Bria Hartley is taking out too many players. It doesn't look like an ACL. There's a possibility that she plays again. Do I think there's a high possibility that Sophie Cunningham plays again? No.
The Indiana Fever season might have just been cursed. In one single gut-wrenching moment, Sophie Cunningham went down, clutching her knee in visible agony. A player who had been the glue of this team in Caitlin Clark's absence was suddenly ripped away, leaving fans stunned, teammates shaken, and everyone asking the same question. Is the WNBA even protecting its players anymore? It looked like the night was over before it even began. Indiana was already battered by injuries, already hanging by a thread in the playoff race, and now the one player keeping their identity intact was gone. The sight of Sophie being helped off the court wasn't just heartbreaking, it felt like the basketball gods had officially declared war on this team. But what happened next? Nobody could have predicted it, because in the very same game where Indiana lost their toughest defender, they also pulled off the single greatest comeback in franchise history. This wasn't just a basketball game anymore, it was a war of heart, resilience, and pure willpower. And it left fans with one burning question: how far can this team go if the league refuses to protect them? The play itself looked almost routine at first glance, but the slow-motion replay told a much darker story. Bria Hartley came driving baseline, and Sophie Cunningham slid over to help. Instead of a normal basketball collision, Hartley's momentum carried her full force into Sophie's planted leg. The impact was brutal, almost like a wrecking ball hitting a steel beam. Sophie immediately reached for her shin and knee area before collapsing onto the hardwood. Now, here's the thing. Sophie isn't the type of player to exaggerate. She's built her reputation on toughness, on shaking off hard fouls and getting right back up. But this time, she didn't get up. This time, tears streamed down her face as trainers rushed onto the floor. When a player like Sophie Cunningham stays down, you know something catastrophic just happened. Fans in the arena went silent, teammates gathered around in disbelief, and for the Fever, it felt like the nightmare season had just hit rock bottom. But even as Sophie was being carried off, another story was beginning to form. Because fans weren't just upset about the injury, they were furious about who caused it and what it represented about the WNBA's growing crisis with 30 play. Let's be honest, this wasn't just bad luck. Bria Hartley has been building one of the dirtiest reputations in the league all season. This is the same player who yanked Angel Reese to the ground by her ponytail just days ago. The same one who pulled Becca Allen down by her head. The same one who's thrown reckless elbows and gotten herself ejected multiple times. So when Hartley came barreling into Sophie Cunningham's knee, fans weren't shocked. They were enraged. Because this wasn't the first time, and unless something changes, it won't be the last. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips of Hartley's past antics resurfaced, and fans demanded to know why the league keeps letting her get away with it. How many more players need to get hurt before action is taken? And this wasn't just fans saying it. Sophie's own family spoke up later. Her sister Lindsay tweeted directly at the league, calling the officiating pathetic and urging them to protect their athletes instead of fining them for criticizing refs. Her mom didn't hold back either, flat out calling Hartley mean and out of control. This wasn't an isolated moment, it was a boiling point. Hartley's reckless style has been ignored for too long, and now the Fever's toughest player may be lost for this season because of it. But the real fury doesn't just sit with Hartley, it's with the referees and the league itself. Because this wasn't the first hard foul of the game. Earlier, Sophie was dribbling the ball 75 feet from the rim when she was mugged and knocked to the ground. No whistle. Minutes later, she got hit upside the head. Again, no whistle. Instead of controlling the game, the officials made a joke of it by giving Sophie a technical foul in the first quarter. Imagine that. The one player who ends up getting hurt is the one the rest decided to set the tone on. Meanwhile, Hartley and the Sun were allowed to play rugby on a basketball court. This isn't just a Fever problem, it's a league-wide epidemic. When referees let games spiral into demolition derbies, players pay the price, and the injuries are piling up. Clark has missed weeks with a groin issue. Sydney Colson tore ACL. Ari McDonald broke her foot. Now Sophie Cunningham is likely out with a knee injury. At what point do we stop calling this bad luck and start calling it negligence?
If I was a ref, I know I would mess up all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that your job is easy, but when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you doing?
And that's the heartbreaking part. This wasn't inevitable. This was preventable. If the WNBA held its officials and players accountable, Sophie Cunningham might still be on the court. Instead, she's in a brace, and the Fever looked finished. Or so we thought. Heading into this game, the Indiana Fever were already walking a tightrope. Caitlin Clark was missing her 13th straight game with the groin injury. Multiple guards were out for the season. Depth was paper thin. Every night, it felt like they were holding the roster together with tape and prayers. Sophie Cunningham had stepped into that void beautifully, becoming the heartbeat of the team. She brought intensity, leadership, and toughness when Indiana needed it most. Losing her wasn't just a setback. It was a gut punch to everything the Fever had built. And to make matters worse, this wasn't some heavyweight opponent. This was the Connecticut Sun, a team sitting at the bottom of the standings, a game Indiana desperately needed to win just to keep their playoff hopes alive. By halftime, those hopes looked dead. Connecticut led by 19. Early in the third, it ballooned to 21. Without Sophie, without Clark, and without momentum, this had all the makings of a humiliating loss. Fans watching at home were already bracing themselves for the worst. Another injury, another blowout, another wasted night in a cursed season. But just when it seemed like the coffin was nailed shut, the Fever did something nobody could have predicted. They didn't fold, they fought. And that fight turned into something historic. Momentum shifts in sports are almost impossible to describe until you witness them. One moment, Indiana looked lifeless. Shots clanked. Rotations broke down. The Sun scored at will. But then, something clicked. It started small, a defensive stop, a made three, another hustle play. Suddenly, the Fever weren't just surviving, they were believing. And at the center of it all was Kelsey Mitchell.
An assassin, Kelsey Mitchell, has a new career high. Mitchell, the pig is snatched up. Mitchell squeezing through.
For the first 25 minutes, she looked like a shell of herself. Just 4 points at halftime. Frustration mounting. But then, she flipped the switch. From that moment forward, she didn't just play basketball, she took over the game. Indiana chipped away at the lead, possession by possession. Fans who had written the game off started to feel something stir. Could this really be happening? Could the same team that lost to Sophie Cunningham actually be on the verge of something historic? By the time regulation ended, the Fever had erased the entire 21-point deficit, and as overtime began, it was clear this wasn't just a comeback, this was about to become legend. What Kelsey Mitchell did in the second half deserves its own documentary. After a quiet start, she exploded for 34 points after halftime, tying her career high with 38. But this wasn't empty scoring. These were the biggest shots of her life, delivered at the exact moment her team needed them most. She went 11 of 22 from the field, nailed 5 of 8 threes, and hit 11 of 12 free throws. Every single time Connecticut tried to regain control, Mitchell answered. In overtime, she scored all 10 of Indiana's points, including back-to-back threes that ripped the soul out of the Sun. Her performance wasn't just impressive, it was historic. According to the record books, Mitchell joined Diana Taurasi as the only player in WNBA history to record multiple games with 35-plus points, 6 assists, and 5 made threes. That's legendary company. But stats alone don't capture the feeling. Watching Mitchell torch the Sun defense with everything on the line, after losing Sophie, after being down 21, felt supernatural. It wasn't just one of the best performances of the season, it was one of the greatest clutch showings in Fever history. And yet, as incredible as Mitchell was, she wasn't alone. The supporting cast deserves just as much credit for keeping the dream alive.
Fever down! 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 Down!
this was the definition of a team win. Odyssey Sims, signed off the street just days before, looked like a seasoned leader. She dropped 19 points and 7 assists, keeping the offense steady when Indiana needed calm. Aaliyah Boston played like the all-star she is, recording 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and multiple defensive stops that turned the tide. Natasha Howard added 18 points in the paint, battling Connecticut's bigs possession after possession. And then came Lexi Hall, who buried the dagger 3 in overtime that sealed the victory. With 44 seconds left, she rose up, no hesitation, and drained it. That shot wasn't just big, it was iconic. Head coach Stephanie White also deserves credit. Down 21, down Sophie, she could have panicked. Instead, she trusted her players, made smart rotations, and let Mitchell play through her early struggles. That faith was rewarded with one of the most unforgettable nights in Fever history. This wasn't just resilience, this was belief. This was a group of players refusing to accept defeat, no matter how bad things looked. And yet, as the celebrations fade, reality sets back in. Sophie Cunningham's MRI looms. Her absence would leave a gaping hole in Indiana's lineup, both statistically and emotionally. She's more than a shooter or defender. She's the voice, the fighter, the protector of Caitlin Clark and the team's identity. Her injury also raises bigger questions about the WNBA itself. How many players need to go down before the league admits it has a problem with officiating and reckless play? How many Hartley-style fouls does it take before suspensions are handed out? The Fever's comeback was magical, but it doesn't erase the danger these players face every night. If the league doesn't start protecting its athletes, more careers will be shortened and more seasons will be derailed. Still, what Indiana accomplished on this night will be remembered forever. The largest comeback in franchise history, Kelsey Mitchell's masterpiece, a team that refused to give up even when everything was stacked against them. It's a reminder of why we love sports, because sometimes, even in the middle of heartbreak, you witness greatness. When the dust settled, the Fever's night in Connecticut became so much more than a regular season game. It started with heartbreak, when Sophie Cunningham hecked the floor in a way that made every fan's stomach drop. The silence in the arena said it all. This wasn't just a player leaving the court, it was a gut punch to a team that had already been battling uphill all year. But what followed proved why sports matter so much. Instead of crumbling, the Fever dug deep. They rallied behind each other, they refused to quit, and they put together a fight that nobody expected. At the center of it all was Kelsey Mitchell, turning adversity into fuel and cementing her place as a player who thrives when the pressure is highest. Injuries can derail a season, but sometimes they light a fire. For the Fever, Sophie's fall wasn't the end. It became the spark for one of the most inspiring comebacks we've seen in years. And as fans, we were reminded that the WNBA isn't just about highlight reels. It's about grit, drama, and moments that live forever. So I'll leave you with this. Was this game the true turning point of the Fever season? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love deep dives like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next.